Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bonus Points. We have a nice episode today. Before we actually get into it, I have a few things to mention. First of all, we are into the international break. What does that mean? First of all, of course, there won't be any Prem for the next 2 weeks, so that's just too bad. Enjoy the week off. I don't know what else to really say. Aside from that, with the international break, one quick thing to mention is you should probably look to save your transfers for a little bit later down the line, for a little bit closer to when the Premier League actually resumes. The main reason for that is because some of the players that we're actually looking at, or some of the players that are in our current team, may get injured while on international duty. There's also the case of the South American players where sometimes they're not able to make it back in time for the weekend of the Premier League and they actually miss out, or they're a little bit tired from playing so close up to their Premier League game and they end up on the bench or whatnot. So maybe you might want to use a transfer for one of those fellas. While on international break, you can just watch the games, see who's getting injured, see who's actually playing, see who's looking good, and maybe it might affect your decision for what transfer to use when the Prem actually starts back. Aside from that, for all our RPM viewers, if you have any of y'all out there, we just want to congratulate Perun, who managed to win the monthly prize. So, Perun, well done. And also Courtney Turpin, who won the weekly prize for game week 10. Sorry, I only now mentioning that, but yeah, Courtney, well done, dog. We have a little in-house celebration for you because you're the first corner flag guy to actually win a prize for RPM, so well done. Aside from that, we're just gonna move straight in to the game week 11 recap. So first of all, we started off with Southampton versus Aston Villa. That was on Friday, and honestly I felt like this game was a little bit boring to watch, but I ended up watching it regardless. Adam Armstrong scored a goal that he'll probably never score in his life again, but that's just how it goes. In terms of Adam Armstrong as an option, the only reason that I mentioned him is because I know that he was in some of our teams earlier in the season. Maybe he might still be in some people's teams right now, in which case congratulations on the goal. But honestly, not sure if he's going to continue starting. I know that the Broha guy was looking pretty good before he got injured, so not sure if they would want to go back to him. If they're going back to him, then it's either Che Adams or Adam Armstrong that's going to be on chopping block. Also felt like that goal was a little bit lucky is not the right word because it was a fantastic goal, but it's just not something that you'll see every day from Armstrong. So you had to take that goal with a pinch of salt as well, aside from that, Livramento just always seems to find a way to get returns. This time it was a clean sheet, sometimes it's an assist, sometimes it's winning a penalty, and sometimes it's scoring a damn goal. So Livramento is definitely someone that I want to put into the team, especially at that price point, and he continues to rise week after week after week because he continues to perform week after week after week. That's about it for the Southampton review though, because the only guy that I would really target from this team is Livramento and maybe McCarthy because their defense is looking decent. And because they have a few more good games left, maybe McCarthy could be a good one. He's extremely cheap at 4.5 as well. But aside from that, there's no attacker from Southampton that I would recommend for you all. There's no midfielder either, and there's only one defender, is Livramento. Moving into Aston Villa, they are just down bad right now. They're talking about sacking Dean Smith. They're talking about future possible managers to replace him with. The fact that all of that is going on with the club, the fact that they can't get a win right now. Danny Ings is not looking all that sharp at the moment. They just don't seem to be having good games. They seem to be down on confidence and just down in general. So as much potential as Aston Villa has and as good as the squad looks on paper, it's not a team that I would target right now. They're going to need to turn things around before we can go back and look at Danny Ings. Moving on to the Manchester Derby, and I think this game went exactly as predicted, exactly as we all expected, which is Manchester City walked away with the win, 2-0, and it looked pretty comfortable. It was basically all City on the day. City is a team that can literally score with anyone, so it's kind of difficult to nail who's going to be getting points in this team, at least from the attacking side of the field. Because again, they could literally score from anyone. Today it was Bernardo Silva, sometimes it's Jesus, sometimes it's Foden, sometimes it's anyone, okay? So that being said, my advice is to try and just target, if you're going for a Manchester City attacker, trying to target the one that you think is going to be rotated the least. And as a result, in just having them play games, I'm pretty sure they're going to get you points. Because again, the ball seems to fall to anyone in the box when you're a City player. Anyone has the ability to score, so it's kind of hard to go ahead and predict who is going to be getting the most points. I think Phil Foden is a good one for the future. I like the way he plays. He's pretty hungry for goal, but again, it's usually just if the ball manages to break his way as well. However, you know how about the attack? Because the defense actually has a lot of potential to bring in points. City and Chelsea are running a race right now for who has the better defense, and honestly at the moment I'm not sure which one to tell you, but Cancelo looks pretty nailed on in that defense, and he is the most attacking defender in the team. Playing on the left hand side or the right hand side doesn't really seem to affect him. The fact that he could play both means that he's just been playing right through this season. He's been getting a lot of clean sheets and he's been getting attacking returns as well. So Cancelo is definitely someone that I think you should include in the team, and he's slowly but surely becoming one of those essential players. Manchester United, on the other hand, I know that they're down bad right now, but they will turn it around at some point, whether that's with or without Ole. Only time can tell. But with players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford, even Bruno Fernandes, you know, big names and big players, it's only a matter of time before they turn it around. In a few game weeks, they're going to be running into a nice sea of green fixtures. So at that point, I wouldn't really be too worried about going ahead and taking off your Manchester United assets. So maybe in the meantime, we look at how the players look over the international break. And then we look at how they look when they come back into game week 12, and then we can make a decision on which one we could bring into the team. But I think definitely, even though United are down bad at the moment, they definitely have some players that we could look to bring in for the future. Brentford versus Norwich. Honestly, not a game that I really watched. I just looked at the highlights. The game looked okay. There's no one from either Norwich or Brentford that can really tell you how to go ahead and get. I just don't see the sense in it. I think Norwich are on course to be probably one of the worst finishers in the Premier League history right now. They can't seem to win a game even though they actually beat Brentford. And what does that say for Brentford? This doesn't really say much, to be honest. I know some of us have Bomo and Ivan Toney. I myself have Ivan Toney, and I have not been impressed since buying him, to be honest with y'all. I don't think Toney is someone to go ahead and get at the moment. I understand that he's good fodder and he's like good value. I guess he's a cheap striker, but I think they have alternative options out there rather than Toney. Toney doesn't really seem to get into the box. He doesn't seem to be on the ball that much. He seems to be more interested in dropping deep and collecting it and then spreading it. He's basically playing like a midfielder, and he's no Harry Kane, so it's not really working out for him. The reason I brought up Harry Kane is because that's what he did last season and he was so effective at it, but Toney is not. So yeah, I'll definitely tell you to stay away from Toney right now, and I think you just need to stay away from Toney in general. It doesn't really seem to be his season. I don't think it's going to work out for him. Chelsea versus Burnley. The money for Chelsea, as I keep saying week after week after week, is in the fullbacks or the wingbacks. These are the guys that get in the best opportunities to put the final ball into the box or to actually be on the end of the ball into the box. And the fact that they are defenders but so heavily involved in the attack makes them brilliant FPL assets. And you definitely need to stop just looking at them and go ahead and buy one of them. Buy either Chilwell or Reece James, or buy both of them. I really think that these guys are going to be playing a lot for the rest of the year at least. Not sure about the rest of the season, but let's just say for the rest of the year for now. I think they're going to be playing a lot. They are heavily involved in the attack, and Chelsea is like tied for the best defense in the league right now. So it's just fantastic value. If they were 7 million, I would still say go and buy both of them. I think Chelsea looked decent on the day. They kind of struggled to finish the chances against Burnley. Kai Havertz got a pretty good goal, but that may be the last time that he starts for Chelsea for a while. We expect Lukaku to be back into the team. We expect Mount to be back into the team as well. And that strengthens Chelsea a lot going forward. The next game is against Leicester. And a strong Chelsea team against a weak Leicester defense. I think it should be pretty good for these Chelsea attackers. And I want to count Reece James and Chilwell in as Chelsea attackers as well. So maybe Reece James and Chilwell could be players that we could look at for the next game. And for the future of the season as well. In terms of Burnley, though, there's no one that I would really tell you to go and get from Burnley. They're playing okay, but they even start to rotate their forwards right now, and the only guy that I might have said to go and get was Chris Wood, and he was taken off early against Chelsea, so there's no one that I could really tell you to go ahead and get. Crystal Palace versus Wolves. I looked at this game and I feel like Crystal Palace is getting better and better every single week. I think it's time that we start jumping on the Palace train. Some of the guys that I could possibly look at would be Conor Gallagher. I really like how he's playing. I think he's really willing to get into the box. He is the most attacking of the three midfielders that they play with. It seems that Patrick Vieira really wants him getting into the box, and he gets onto the final ball a lot. He had a chance to score more than one goal on the day. And okay, maybe his goal was lucky, but he had other good chances as well. I think that Gallagher could be a really good one to maybe battle for Smith Rowe as best value midfielder this season. Aside from that, I also think that Edouard is looking pretty good. Every time he gets the ball, he seems like he just wants to do something. He wants to create a chance for someone else, or he wants to score the goals himself. And that's really important. It's also important that he's a striker at like a low price, and Crystal Palace have been in good form. So I think Edouard could be a good one to watch as well. Zaha is the obvious choice. But the thing with Zaha that I don't like this season is that he's just not on the ball as much as he used to be in previous seasons. For me, when Crystal Palace plays, the ball is in the midfield a lot more than it used to be. Before, they would want to find their talisman, Zaha, and have him. Okay, sorry about that, I had a technical issue. But yeah, the main point is that Zaha just doesn't really seem to be the main talisman right now, and that just has me a little bit worried about him. I still think he's someone that you could watch, but I'm just not sure about how good he is for Crystal Palace this season, seeing that he's not as involved as he used to be. Moving on into Brighton versus Newcastle, honestly, there's not too much to report here. Brighton hasn't really kept a clean sheet in a while, and for those who went for Robert Sanchez, I'm sorry about that, because the guy got a red card in the last game, hasn't kept a clean sheet in like 3 games. At the time, it seemed like a toss-up between him and Ramsdale, so if I had to pick Robert Sanchez over Ramsdale, sorry. I think at the time, I thought that Ramsdale was the slightly better option, but I didn't expect it to be by this much. So, yeah. There's no one that I would really recommend from Brighton. I think Trossard is probably the most informed player, and he took a penalty over the weekend. But even him, he's still a pretty inconsistent player. We have a lot of data about this guy from previous seasons. He's always been inconsistent, so unless something drastically changes this season, don't think he's going to be one to go ahead and get for the team. However, Newcastle, even though they haven't been all that this season, I think there is one bright spark in that team, and that is Callum Wilson. Especially with Eddie Howe returning to the helm, I think the relationship between Wilson and Eddie Howe has been good in the past for Bournemouth, and I think it could be good again. Hopefully he gets Wilson firing a little bit more than he is right now. That doesn't mean Wilson is having a bad season, though. He's already scored a few goals. I think he scored some good goals for the season already. And he's the type of player that will score like 10 to 12 goals every season. He's pretty consistent like that. So yeah, he's a good like mid-table option, and for like 6.6 million, I really don't think that this is a bad option for Callum Wilson. Moving on to Arsenal versus Watford, I really thought that Arsenal were going to beat Watford a bit more than they actually did. But I guess you could put it down to maybe poor finishing, or just a little bit of misfortune, I guess, that Arsenal only scored 1 goal. Oba missed a penalty. Then he scored a goal that was offside. And then Saka came up with the goods. Sorry, not Saka. Smith Rowe came up with the goods and scored from outside the box. The ball just broke to him, as it usually does, and he finished it pretty well, as he usually does. I think Smith Rowe has been a really good option for FPL managers so far. I went with Saka instead, and honestly, I have to feel a little bit unlucky with that decision. I think it was close at the time. I think since then, Saka has probably had a higher XG and maybe a better XA, but Smith is the one that's walking out with more points. So I guess that's just football for you. Moving into like the future though, I think it's still pretty close, because I could see Saka working, I could see him playing well, and he's getting himself good opportunities to shoot. He's creating good opportunities for others, and they just aren't really scoring. Whereas Smith Rowe are not getting that many chances, but he is a pretty confident finisher. So I think that works a lot in his advantage. Right now, I still think it's pretty close, but when it's close like that, I'd say just go for the cheaper one, and that's Smith Rowe. So he should be the one. And I think most of you will agree with that as well. Moving on to Everton versus Tottenham. This whole thing is just going to be about Tottenham because Everton did not really show us much new in this game. But Tottenham have a new manager. It is a big name. It is Antonio Conte. And as expected, he started with a 3-4-3 formation with Reguilon and Emerson Royale as the two wing backs, and then we went with Kane, Son, and Lucas Moura as the front three. And again, as expected, in a 3-back formation, we see it with Chelsea, we saw it with Wolves in previous seasons, and now we should hopefully be seeing it with Tottenham. The wing backs are a huge part of the attack force. We saw Reguilon in particular creating a lot of good chances. He got into a lot of good chances got into a lot of good positions to cross the ball, which he did. Created good chances off of crosses. We saw crosses going from one wing back to the other. We saw Reguilon getting what should have been a tap-in right in front of the goal, created from the other wing. Emerson Royale crossing the ball in, and it fell to Reguilon. I think this is where the money is going to be for Spurs. In the future, I think that we know enough about Conte's system and Conte's style to say that the wing backs are very important to the way that he plays. But I think that we also know enough about Conte to say that the relationship that Kane and Son has is going to be very important going forward as well. I think that these two should be able to replicate the success that Martinez and Lukaku had under Conte. It should be a very similar situation, to be honest, between Kane and Son. I think that the three players to target from Spurs are going to be Kane, Son, and Reguilon. I think Reguilon is nailed on at that wing back position. I think Son and Kane, as soon as they learn and adapt to Conte's system, are going to do really, really, really well. And I think that it was only Conte's first game with Spurs in the Premier League, so he probably didn't really get to sink his teeth into this team as yet. But with the 2 weeks off for international break, for those who don't actually travel to their respective countries, I think that Conte is going to have a lot of time to work with his team. And then I think Kane and Son are pretty smart players that they should be able to adapt to this new system pretty quickly and get a lot of success. Leeds versus Leicester. Okay, these are two teams that straight up can't defend. That being said, Rafinha went ahead and scored another cross shot type thing. This time it was from a free kick that he took the free kick from a wide position, crossing it in, no one touched it, and it just went into the bottom corner. That's cool. It's another goal for Rafinha, and it's a big mistake that I made taking him out. But sometimes you have to live with the mistakes and just admit that you were wrong. That's exactly what I plan on doing. As for Leeds, I think Bielsa is trying his best with a much weaker team than he had last season. Could be a case of second season syndrome, or it could be a case of just a lot of injuries. I think it's a mixture of the two. That Leeds is just not seeing the success that they had last season. Quick analysis on Rafinha. I think that he's a much more of a creator than an actual goal scorer. And when you're a more creative player, you kind of rely on having goal scorers around you, and that is just not something that you have right now. So until we can see Bamford back into the team, or guys like Harrison, or maybe even if Dan James could step up a bit, I don't think that Rafinha is going to continue scoring worldies week after week after week. Doesn't make him a bad option. I just think that I personally am not ready to go for Rafinha until the Leeds team is back to somewhat full strength. And then in terms of Leicester, there's no one that can really tell you how to target here except for Jamie Vardy. I know that he didn't score on the day. The guy that actually scored was Harvey Barnes, but that was a world-class goal, and maybe he tries it another 5 times and it doesn't work out. So I think Vardy has been the consistent player for Leicester this season. He's probably been the only consistent player for Leicester this season. And with Leicester having a few more good games coming up on the horizon, I think Vardy could be the only one that I should target. And then finally going into West Ham versus Liverpool, this was a fantastic game. West Ham scored 3 times on the day, so that was great. Not something I really expected. It's probably the first time that I think it is the first time that West Ham beat Liverpool at the home of West Ham in like 12 years or something crazy like that. Antonio did not score or assist on the day, but I think that just came down to the fact that West Ham resorted to scoring from a counter attack and then scoring two corner situations. And then Liverpool, I think Salah played really, really good on the day, but we already know that. And the guy I want to talk about a little bit more is Trent. He was very creative on the day. We know how he could be, but it's a position that he took up a few times during this game. It was more of like a midfield role. We saw him operating a lot in like the right half space, which is an area that KDB likes to be in a lot. It's also an area that Jordan Henderson likes to be in a lot, so you can kind of understand where exactly I'm talking about. And that actually allowed him to get some good quality crosses off, but also go into some shooting positions as well, positions to shoot the ball, which I think is really good if that is how they're going to have Trent playing for the upcoming fixtures or for the rest of the season. I think that's brilliant. I think that increases his stock, if anything, to be honest. I think he's going to have more goal threat if that's the position that he's getting into. And I think more assist threat as well, because it's such a dangerous position to cross the ball from, and he has so much quality in that right foot. So that's definitely something to pay attention with Trent. And I'll just go and talk quickly about some players that I would target from Liverpool. It would be Salah, obviously. I think Mane is someone else that we need to pay attention to. He's probably been overshadowed a little bit by Salah this season, but Mane has just been really good this season as well. And then Diogo Jota, because they're saying that Firmino might miss up to 4 games. So if we have Jota for the next 4 games, I think that's a really nice cheap option, a cheap gateway into the Liverpool attack. And then finally Trent, I just spoke about him and told you all why I think he'll be a good option, and yeah, none of that changes. So Trent, I think, is also a good option. But with that actually brings us to the end of this video. So once again, watch some of the games over international break if you can. I'll try to watch as much of them as possible and let you all know about them next week. We're going to see you all again on Thursday, where I'll run through some of the upcoming fixture swings and some of the players that I could target for the upcoming fixture swings. Until then, enjoy the international break. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.